in the modern day world, it is not uncommon for someone to be described as lazy if they're not always taking action and taking life by the horn. It is then as if someone is either taking action and they're a doer, they make things happen, or they're lazy and they're idle and they sit around doing nothing. So it's then a case of on one side there's someone that is lazy, and on the other there's someone who takes action constantly. And what this overlooks is the fact that on one side there's the doing, and on the other side there's the being. So it's not a case of on one side there's laziness, on the other side there's action. And when it comes to taking action, this is the masculine. And when it comes down to the being, this is the feminine. And although me, like everyone else with 2 legs on this planet, is classed as a human being, it's often hard for us to be a human being. And this is because we often feel the need to do things all the time. Can't sit around, got to be on the go, got to make things happen. And especially in the West and in Britain, we've been brought up with this. It's honourable to be working all the time, and so you have people that are workaholics, then are seen as normal and honourable, if anything. Whereas if someone's got an alcohol problem or a drug problem, they're addicts. But if someone works a lot, well, they're just model citizens. And although there is clearly a time for us to take action, there is also a time for us to just be and to let things happen, to let things flow. However, one of the things that can make it hard for someone to let go and to be a human being, not a human doing, is that it can be hard for them to surrender. It can be hard for them to let go and to trust. They can believe that if they're not always doing something, nothing will happen. If anything, they can have a goal and they can work really hard, and they think, well, if I don't keep going now, it's going to slip away. So I've got to keep on it. It's like being on a treadmill, constantly running, and there is a button to stop it, but that's seen as too much of a risk. And then of course this can lead to exhaustion, burnout. People can have all kinds of health problems seeming to appear out of nowhere, but they basically work themselves to death. And even if someone like this was to go on holiday, they can still be in their mind thinking about this, thinking about that. Their mind can be prophesizing about how's it going to happen. If I do this, it'll lead to that. And so back to the reason why it can be so hard for someone to let go, and to relax, and to trust, along with taking action at the right time, is because of trauma. And so on one side, someone can believe that they don't deserve to receive. So if they just sit back, they can be called lazy, but if they sit back, nothing will happen. They have to work themselves to death in order to deserve anything. So there's a toxic shame element. And then there's also, going back to the trauma, toxic shame is usually the result of trauma as well. But perhaps when they were younger, when they needed to have their needs met, their developmental needs met, needs that would allow them to grow in the right way. Perhaps during this time, the care was inconsistent, meaning it was rarely there. So they had to struggle. They couldn't just relax and know that their needs were going to be met. They had to struggle. And even then, perhaps, nothing actually happened. So although times have changed, these early times in their life would have taught them, and they might not know this consciously, but deep down it will still be running and defining their life. And it will have taught them that if they don't struggle and strain, nothing's going to happen. And also, after this stage in their life, slightly after, still during their childhood years, they may have had to earn everything. So they couldn't have just received something. They may have had to have done all kinds of things just to get anything back. So these experiences would have taught them that life was a struggle. And that they had to work really hard for everything. If they let go and stop trying to make things happen, then they would be ignored, they would be forgotten about, nothing would come. Which again could have been what happened when they were younger, nothing did come. So now they're an adult, they're replaying the same dynamic over and over again. And as I've said, it is incredibly exhausting. But the thing is, until someone can actually relax and let go and surrender, and not for this just to be a technique, but for them to actually embody it, until they can do this, it's going to be very hard for them to just receive things, because the more things they do, the more they can push, actually end up pushing things away. So their behaviour justifies their need to do more. Nothing is happening, oh, I better do more. And if I relax, oh, nothing is going to happen, so I better continue to do more. And one way for this to change is to be mindful of it. And for someone to gradually let go of the need to do more, and just to gradually settle down and to trust. And during this time, things can come up. Their mind can prophesize again, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen if I don't do this. And the mind is just recreating old scenarios, or a mishmash of old scenarios. That's all it can do. And that part of us then needs to be acknowledged. Not to resist it, but to allow it to pass through us. And what can also help is to deal with the trauma, the early trauma that was experienced. So then it will be possible to relax and to trust, to take inspired action, to take action when we feel the call to do it, not just out of fear. Because of course what we resist persists, so the more we try and resist something, the more we are likely to get of it. So if you find it hard to surrender, it's certainly been a challenge for me over the years. I hope this has helped and has given you some ideas about, I was going to say what you can do, but that kind of goes against the whole idea of this video, but about how you can be more. And not in terms of being more, because who you are is who you are, and you can't really be more than who you are, your inherent value, but you can just be without needing to do so much.